Hello everyone, my name is Krasimir and in this video I will try to explain how I was able to secure a summer internship after my first year at university and my tips that could help some of you land an internship as well. Now before I start with the tips, I would like to explain that it is very low chance to get a summer internship, and I don't think that it's something that I ultimately did that was able to secure it. What I'm trying to explain in this video is just the approach that I took, and as much as I know that some of you will be able to follow that approach and get summer internship, I cannot guarantee that it will work for everyone, and I really do know that most companies are not as inclined to offer summer internship to first years. So without further ado, let me start with the first tip, which is to admit that it's possible. I would say the most important thing that I had in my mindset when I was looking for a summer internship was just thinking that I can get one. And I think from this point, I didn't even question whether summer internship can be achieved after your first year. I just went in and I looked for companies and I was looking for additional people to help me with applying and give me advice for which companies to apply to. All of it by thinking that getting first year internship is something normal. At this point, I didn't do it on purpose, or I didn't know that it is as unlikely to get one, um, which is also why I thought it's possible. But what I would say is that a lot of people in their first year, they just go with the mindset that getting a summer internship is just not possible. And I would say most of the time, this is what actually makes people unable to achieve work experience after their first year or just secure something that would be really, really valuable for them in the future. So absolutely try and get a summer internship, try to apply for one, and in the next tips I will try to explain in more detail how to apply for one and how to increase your chances of getting it. Let me move to the second step, which is keep applying. Now, once you've discovered areas that you're interested in, or once you've thought about companies that you would like to work for, try and apply for the same area or try to keep applying for companies that you're interested in. A lot of the times you want to target smaller companies. Like for example, for me, I was just interested in technology and tech companies, and I just kept applying for every tech company that I could see, even though I never heard of them before. The way I did it is actually I was looking at basically our university has careers newsletter, and every week they would share about 10 opportunities, maybe more sometimes. And out of these opportunities, sometimes there are really valuable companies that I was interested in, and I would find them interesting, and I would put forward an application. Another way in which you can look for jobs if your university doesn't have a newsletter, you want to kind of have a look on Google as well. This is what I did for this year's applications, and I saw that Google has really good offers by companies. So, for example, the position that I want to kind of keep working in the future is business analyst. And if I just write on Google business analyst internships, I would already get a list of options that I can then apply to. And it just gives me a lot of different companies that could be potentially willing to have me as an intern. Another thing is looking on LinkedIn as well. I think LinkedIn also offers the same service. If you're looking for companies that are offering analyst internships or anything in general, I think there is a functionality. Now, I personally haven't explored it too much, but I remember seeing it, and I will explain a little bit more in the description of the video. Now, my third tip to land a summer internship is keep seeking advice. I would say the most crucial thing that probably helped me get an internship is having someone that I can ask for help, someone that could look over my CV, and this was the UCL careers team at my university. So I think the different thing that I did compared to a lot of people was um, I understood that I need to get advice from somebody else. I knew that I don't have the expertise, I don't have the knowledge of how to write a good enough CV when I went in my first year. I didn't know how to write good enough cover letters, and all of these things I knew that I need to just go and ask someone. So starting to meet the careers team in the beginning of my first year, I kept doing it throughout. And after meeting them a couple of times, I already developed a stronger CV, a stronger cover letter, and generally was able to target jobs that I was more interested in. After I was able to apply to companies and I had a couple of interviews, um, I would prepare again with the same team in my university, again with the mindset that you don't know everything in your first year, and it's really crucial to seek out advice from somebody else. I will talk about this a little bit more in another step. So, for now, moving on to step 4, which is diversify your outside of uni experience. Now, if you're still in high school, I would say try to really make the most out of your last year in high school or last few years. Try to engage in some sort of extracurricular activity because all of these things help you in the future when you're trying to explain why you're good in team working, why you're good at problem solving, why you've applied creative approaches, and all of these soft skills that you're able to get outside of university. And the difference is when you're competing with someone for a position, it's much better to be able to provide some outside of university experience because the more someone talks about university, the more he's the same as everybody else that's applying to the interview. Because all of us have gone to high school, all of us have gone to university, so all of us can share how they worked with a group in university, and that's no difference to anyone else that worked in a group in university. The key highlight, however, or the key distinguishment is when you're able to say, I did this extracurricular, I was part of this society, I was part of this club, and this is where I did and applied all of these skills, which first shows that you're motivated to be involved in something outside of university, but second, it's actually closer to the real world. If you're already in university, I would say join societies and try to explore your interests. What I did as well, towards the end of my first year, I joined a society called UCL Entrepreneurs, and this is a really great society in terms of developing something you're passionate about, in terms of engaging in an event or being part of the team that organizes it. And this is again a great example that I can then use for my CV or when I apply for companies. And I would always refer back to it in terms of teamwork, in terms of other soft skills that I was able to acquire by being part of this society. Now, finally, the last tip that I have is practice. And I really mean practice. A lot of people, when they get an interview, they would just read a little bit about the company, but they would never list all the questions and try to prepare answers for them. This is where I think there is a crucial difference, and I think that even though there is a lot of recruitment based on how experienced you are, a lot of the time it's also about how well you can present yourself in an interview, the confidence you have, the passion that you can portray. And this is really important because the more you practice, the more likely it is that you can portray passion towards the position, you can portray more knowledge about it. And essentially what I mean by practice is when I had an interview, when I was applying in my first year, and a company would say, "Oh, we're interested, let's have an interview," I would practice multiple times on the questions that I think they would ask me. For example, sometimes recruiters would tell me that the interview will be exploring my soft skills or the interest in the job, and this already highlights things that will be in the interview. So it already puts you at an advantage if you prepare these questions really well. Additionally, you kind of get used to it over time. So like the more interviews you do, the more similar questions you get, and the more when you practice these questions, you're able to then respond to them. So what I would say is try to make a list of questions that you expect before an interview and try to write an answer to each one of them. Once you're happy with the answers, ask a friend of yours to practice with you, or even ask yourself the questions and try to answer them without looking at the script, and just try to deliver a genuine and passionate response, which you hope is good for the company. What I also did in addition to this is I used the career services in my university again to prepare additionally. So I would book a session with them after preparing for the interview to have a mock interview with them, and then I would have my real interview. And the mindset that you kind of want to apply in in this type of situation is, did I deliver 100% when I was preparing for this company? And is there nothing else that I could have done better for me to secure this position? And I think ultimately when you go with this kind of mindset and when you put this checklist, whether you are able to give your 100%, this is ultimately when, even if they don't get you in the company, you can go away with satisfaction knowing that you've done your best. And additionally to this, even if they don't get you in a company, I think still applying is extremely beneficial just because of the experience you get after every single interview. And it is a dramatic difference after you do 3 or 4 interviews, and the skills you have in terms of presenting yourselves, the level to which you answer questions, it really, really improves. So that's all of me. That's my 5 tips for getting a summer internship in your first year. If you like this video and if you found these tips useful, please like it, comment with any suggestions you have or anything else you might find interesting in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to see more videos related to university, living in London, and we'll see what other types of topics I try to create in the channel. But for now, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and go ahead and rock the summer internships.